Hello, how's everybody doing? This is an ex-Jehovah Witness tape. An ex-Jehovah Witness YouTube. And I'm going to get into something that we don't usually talk about or normally talk about, but it's very important. I always had this concept where, you have good people, but the thing about it is that you have good people, or let's just say that's just one category, and then you have Jehovah Witnesses and you have ex-Jehovah Witnesses, and it's always something that because you're good, or because you're ex-Jehovah Witness, or because can I say Jehovah Witness? I don't know. Yeah, I can't say Jehovah Witness. Because you're ex-Jehovah Witness, you don't want to do, okay? The point I'm trying to make is I'm using this as an example, like policemen, okay? You have a lot of good people who don't want to be policemen because the system is corrupt a lot of times, they say. Not for every state, but not for every area, but some of them are it's kind of a corrupt system, okay? But you don't want to change it. You don't want to do it's not that you don't want to do anything because it's corrupt, because it's bad. You don't want to put the effort into it to do anything, which is kind of what I'm trying to say. It's not really a good, it's like me too. It's not, I don't want to do certain things because I know they're corrupt or it's such a hard thing to do. But yet, if we always think that way, the wrong person is always going to be there. It's always going to stay the same. I hope everybody's trying to get my point, because we always get deeper and deeper. And it's and I'll tell you where I'm going to this, because I don't want to explain what I'm going to talk about yet, because I want to let you see something first. So it's like that, okay? And there was a time when I first left the Jehovah's Witnesses. Maybe a lot of people, the last thing you want to do is get into government or something like that, because you've been taught that it was corrupt and it's not good and it's all this. So why would I want to do it? But yet, if you think about it and you make your contribution, no matter how hard it is, no matter how against everybody you are, you're actually doing something. You might have to go along with a lot of things that you don't believe in, but if you keep who you are, you can change things. You can make things better, but it's not going to be overnight. And that's what I'm trying to say. Now, getting back to a Jehovah's Witness, because this is really different. That's why I'm setting it up like this. So, being a Jehovah's Witness, okay? After you leave Jehovah's Witness, there was some people who say, and I heard it in some of the comments, why don't you just forget about it? Don't do anything. Just live your life. Yeah, that's fine. But then there's other people who are going to continually suffer. And you have to, I guess you have to really care about other people and care about how things work, because if nobody did anything at all and they didn't go through all these problems, things would be different. The biggest thing I see, which is really sad, is the first century Christians, okay? Nobody ever talks about them. Today's Jews cover, I'm sorry. I worshiped them for a long time, but they're like everybody else. They do bad like everybody else. They cover their meaning. And Christians today, and you can listen to my station whether you're Christian or not, because I'm not against anybody. Jewish, Jehovah's Witness, ex-Jehovah's Witness, or whatever, because I want everybody to listen to me. Now I have to get back to work. I always make these abrupt decisions to bring up points, and then sometimes I've been doing good at it though, not losing the point, and it'll come back to me. But what I'm trying to say is, Okay, the Christians, what I was talking about, nobody ever talks about the Christians. And they saw a lot of things that were not good. Of course, Jesus is with them. But they changed. They had to change things. I mean, they didn't have to change things. They didn't have to listen to Jesus. They did not. And I'm talking about politically now. I'm not talking about right now, I'm not talking about religion. I'm talking about people. And that's what it was. It wasn't a religion. It was Jesus came down to help people. A person came down to help people like that. You didn't have to view him or think of him as God. But I'm just saying he came down to help people because he helped everything. And there were people that listened to him, but still and yet they had to do something. They had to do something. If it could have been to where they didn't do anything, it could have made everything much harder. But they didn't. And I'm talking about Mary, Virgin Mary. She was the first Christian. I'm talking about all her friends. I'm talking about all the people who sat and listened to Jesus. They didn't have to do anything, but they did. And why did they do something? Because, look, we don't even think about them right now. I think we don't think about them because of today's Jews. And I'm not saying anything bad, but they're just as bad as everybody else. But everybody does something bad, okay? And I'm talking about the Jews. What I'm saying is that there were Jews who changed the world. And we don't even talk about them. We don't even think about them. And in order for them to do that, they had to not think about themselves. And they had to give up their life because Jesus not just sacrificed his life, but he also showed them that it wasn't going to be easy. I mean, even my father told me, which was a sad thing, when I was young, he said, oh, this thing is what you're going. He said, you're going to have a rough life. But I didn't say like, oh shit, I'm not going to do this. Oh, I'm sorry, I cussed. But what I'm trying to say is that they just accepted it and they changed the world. They changed who they were, and they were Jews, and they changed it into being Christian. So then you have the Hebrews, you have the Israelites, and you have the Jews, and then you have the Christians. I'm sorry, I done went over everything. The Christians are the chosen ones. I mean, the nice thing about it is that we don't say, oh, we're Christians. And a lot of Jewish people nowadays, they go, oh, we're Jews. We should get this. Don't talk bad about us. Don't do this about us. But the Christians don't do that. And I think a lot of people should really be happy because I think God sees us in a very good light because we don't do that. We always worry about if we say the right things to certain people. We don't try and put ourselves first. I mean, even I know, because the reason I'm saying the Jews, because there's so much in the news now. Although the Palestinians, I'm sorry, this is political, are in the news today, but the Jewish people made it to where it's not about them, it's about the Jewish people, which is not true, which I definitely believe is not true, because I never even knew in my whole life how much these people were suffering. And through my whole life, I really was on Israel's side, and now I understand that there's other points of view. And when I say Israel, I don't think Israel about the Bible. I don't think it has anything to do with the Bible. It has anything to do with God. It's just another country. I'm an American, and America is number one because I'm American. I was born here. Any other country, I have to really study about it. And I'm hard on a lot of countries. I love my friends from France, but I'm hard on them. I mean, I don't like the fact that a lot of major important female figures died on behalf in France in France's uh, in France, okay, but still and yet I talk about him critically, and although I like a lot of the people, I have a lot of friends from France, and let me see another country. Another country that I was in love with, and then when I found out more about it, I was very critical of them. So I'm critical about all countries. I mean, nobody can say anything. I mean, because I talk about pretty much everybody. And not just that, God wouldn't allow me to say something in the wrong aspect. So I say what I'm saying. So what I'm trying to say, this is very important. I'm saying that we had to change things. The Christians changed everything, but it wouldn't be Christians if it wasn't for Jesus's Jewish followers who changed themselves into Christians because they loved him so much. And they did it without any birthday cakes, without any place to live, without any beautiful things. But we have those things because of, and I can say it because people don't, because of the Jewish people who loved God. They weren't afraid. They didn't tell God, no, you can't do that. And if I was back in the day, and I was Jewish in back in the day, in the Bible characters, I would just listen. I'm almost positive. I would just listen. Okay, this is my son. Okay, it's your son. You know more than I do. So that's the point I'm trying to say, is that when you believe in something, you have to do it. You have to think about other people, because if other people didn't come before us to try and change things, we wouldn't be anywhere where we were today. So what am I trying to say? The point I'm trying to make is that ex-Jehovah Witnesses have to learn things that they don't want to understand. And that one of the things that they don't want to understand is the things that people who control their minds do understand. And this is taking me to a point. I'm sorry I went this far, but I wanted to show you how important it is. When I went to college really late in life, and I was just surprised and shocked. Most of it is because I grew up as Jehovah's Witness. Okay, these are the classes that really shocked me. Excuse me. One thing a lot of people don't realize when they go to college, you have to be able to take classes. You need one subject, at least one subject that you can get A's in. This is just to make it through. You have to have that, okay? Because a lot of times you won't get an A even though you're doing A work. So you need that A thing, okay? Then you need 4 years worth of taking classes that you have to pass, okay? So you need subjects. And I was at a point when I was in my junior year, latter part of my junior year, I guess the junior year really, because you take so many classes in your first freshman and sophomore year. And you need credits, especially electives and things like that. So in my school that I went to, you had to have a minor also. So I didn't know what to take. And then all of a sudden I don't know, I took by accident or whatever because I needed classes. And because I didn't know how everything worked in school, because, or Jehovah's Witness, they never talked about college or anything to do with college. It was a linguistics class. And as far as linguistics is concerned, it was so foreign to me. And I walked into class, and the professor started talking, and I go, I understand everything she's talking about. I didn't know it existed. Okay? So I'm saying that in beginning to tell these ex-Jehovah Witnesses, my brothers and sisters, we have to be familiar with things that we haven't learned because of being a Jehovah Witness. So I was able to take classes because, for the mere fact that I've always done something by accident that involved linguistics, languages, and not just languages. I would always do these exercises all the time. So then that was one thing that helped me get out of class. But then there was one thing that I didn't understand. It was philosophy, and this is where I'm going. I didn't understand. That was another thing that was so foreign, and I was like, oh no, because you take the classes that you don't really know anything about or that you're afraid of. You just let them, you wait until the last moment. And I had to take a philosophy class. I think it was something to do with electives or something, I don't know. And I took it, and I couldn't believe it also. It was something, it countered everything that the Jehovah Witnesses taught. Counter. I mean, it was like, well, I told you about one class that I took before about something kind of thinking. I told about the classes. I had no idea about that. But philosophy was explaining, I should have took philosophy first because it explained critical thinking. That's what it was. And if anybody's in this situation, whatever you do, take philosophy before you take critical thinking. Okay. So anyway, I'm not gonna change this point now. So anyway, it was philosophy, and I couldn't believe it. It was counter everything that the whole idea of being a Jehovah's Witness was attacked in philosophy. So this is where I'm going. What I'm trying to say is, and it's a big point, and it was hard for me to come up with this because I want you to take it seriously, is in philosophy you have these people, in philosophies and a lot of philosophers, they were just common people who wanted to help other people and wanted to help the human situation so that we would be able to live like we do now. And they did a good job. People who make minds where people would see people, like for instance, like slavery. I'm talking about American slavery with the blacks. Philosophy minds that would see that and say, wait, this can't happen. I'm not talking about religion standpoint. I'm talking about really an academic or whatever kind of thinking, human kind of thinking standpoint, saying this cannot be happening. And these people were philosophers who thought about the human condition. But then you have these other people, like the people who taught Jehovah's Witnesses and came up with the structure. They use the teachings that these people who were philosophers trying to help the human condition, but they used it against them. And they go, oh, so if people are like this, that means I can do this, and I could do this, and I could take their happiness, and I could take their kindness, and I could take their money. I could have them work for me. And I'm not talking about slavery now, but I'm talking about in any kind of corporation, big corporation, bad corporation, and just different things, not just corporation, but organizations and stuff like that. And add in Jehovah's Witness, Watch Our Bible and Tract Society. So they go, wow. So I'm going to learn this philosophy so I can use it against people. Oh, just think how much money I would make. And there's people who actually did it, but I'm not going to mention these people. But anyway, and they became good at it and better at it and better at it until they became this wealthy nation. And I'm not just talking about one people, I'm talking about until they all became wealthy and stuff like that. It happens a lot. So what I'm saying about philosophy is that they learned, one main point is that they learned it, usually learn something from something good. And they took these points and they used it against humans instead of helping humans. They use it for their own gain, like any bad person would do. Okay, so anyway, so now I want to share with you. And now I made this introduction so that you would be forced yourself, not me forcing you, so that you would force yourself to listen to something about philosophy, which is very important. And it's a story, it's an allegory of the cave, and his name, a very important philosopher, which is called Plato. I'm not going to explain the origins and stuff because it is really, really complicated. It's not that it's complicated, it's time consuming. Time consuming can be complications. So anyway, there was one, and I first heard the story in a philosophy class, but I continually, my philosophy, the philosophers that I study, I continued to appreciate them and research them and learn more from them. And a lot of Dance Without Music is from one of my favorite philosophers. It's so hard for me to get his name. Descartes. That's my favorite. That's how I got a lot of things, information from Dance Without Music. But now it's not Dance Without Music. It's changed into American Yoga. Look at your American Yoga. Start from the beginning. It's hard to do, but you can do it. And you have to find the first one lesson and go from one to the... Okay, so anyway, that's just a plug. So now we have this philosopher. And it was very important. But some of the things that he taught are used to control, it's definitely true, to use to control people like Jehovah Witnesses. Believe me, if it wasn't all these philosophers, they would not have any control over anything. But a lot of ex-Jehovah Witnesses would say, oh no, not philosophy. But you keep saying, oh no, not philosophy. I don't want to learn about Plato. But the thing about it is, if you don't learn about it, that's why people are in the condition. And not just that, but when all these lessons that I learned, that we've been going over, didn't help me with just being an ex-Jehovah Witness, but it also helped me into seeing the world. Also, it helped me to understand the world. So the ex-Jehovah Witness YouTube really helped out a lot, even in your life. So let me see. So this is about, I'm going to give you something. I got my glasses, but the glasses are broke. I always put these glasses in my pocket, and I gotta get some today. So I'm sorry they're broke. But I'm gonna give you a definition that's on the on Google about it, and then I'm gonna explain something about it. Okay, the question is, what is the main point of Plato's allegory of the cave? And this, we're talking about the philosopher Plato. And I did all this introduction so that you would listen to this philosophy, because this is the technique that they use. Why do we have to learn a technique? Because we can understand the Jehovah Witnesses better. We can understand what happened to ourselves, and it won't happen again, and we can get rid of it. So, this is what I'm going to read. One question, it was when people also ask, what is the main point of Plato's allegory of the cave? And it says, the Plato cave allegory represents the world of illusion and perception, which does not always reflect the reality of truth. Okay, now, I just gave this because I wanted to say what everybody, a summary, an explanation of Plato. But I studied this extensively. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it into a Jehovah Witness scenario. Now, the allegory itself, or the story, or whatever you want to call it, is very complicated. I mean, it's very hard to conceive in your mind. But I'm putting it in the light of the Jehovah Witnesses. Now, they have these. Now, I'm also going to, I looked up a link to something of a story about the allegory, the philosopher's story, which is Plato. I had to, excuse me, I wanted to look up a YouTube that you could go to and see a representation of the actual allegory or the actual story. And I'm going to put it in this link, okay? Because I always do that most of the time, unless I forget. So I'm going to do that allegory, and I'm going to put it in the one that I liked the most. It was fun, so you can see it. But in the allegory, and I'm going to put it up as far as representing the Jehovah's Witnesses. And this, the reason why I'm telling you is because you're not interested, but people are interested. The wrong people, and they use these things. They use the fact that you're not interested in a power over you. When you're not interested in something, it's a power over that thing that you don't want to study or the thing you don't want to use. They use it as a power against you, and that's what Jesus did. And I'm talking about Jesus politically now. I'm not talking about Jesus religiously. All those people would never have anything. They would still be, because in their minds they can't see it. They don't know which way to go. So they just continually be poor. They were all poor. I'm talking about my Jews from the Bible, the ones that had us, okay, the ones that had the Christians, and nobody was going to ever help them. And the only way that they could be helped was for God to come here and Jesus politically and talk to him and go, you don't have to do that. You don't have to do that. Let me tell you something. Did you know that you can walk out here with your family and you can get a horse and you can build all by yourself, and I'm going to help you. That's the God part. So they had people who went crazy, and they would go like, "Shit, I'm sorry for cussing. Wow, I could do this by myself. I can do this by myself. So I'm going to do it." And then they're packing up their things, and back then there was nothing. It was just nothing. You had to have somebody with you. And they take their family and they pray and they go, "Oh God, where do we go? Make a left. Oh God, where do we go? Make a right. Oh, how can we eat? Oh, this, and they all of a sudden they have this whole tribe." So that's what I'm trying to say. Okay, so now I'm gonna get into the story again, because I know it's hard for everybody to concentrate because it's philosophy. But this is one of the techniques that they use against us. Now, in this allegory of the slave, it shows about how people are. They have these people in the cave. They're chained, okay? I'm going to go along with his story first. They're chained in this cave. They can't see anything, although there is one light that from the outside, which is like a path. It's just there, okay? Because it's a cave. I mean, you have to get to the cave some kind of way. So anyway, I get out of the cave some kind of way. So anyway, these people are chained and they can't move because they're chained. They can't move their face. They can't do anything. But they have like a screen in front of them. And this is back then. So their conception of a movie, I guess. But anyway, they had just like a screen or something, or maybe a wall, and they had a fire there, always burning, that they would, keep up the people controlling them. And they had people walk across, and they would see silhouettes or shadows from this fire onto the screen. You could say screen, but it was like a big wall, okay? And they would hear them talk as they would walk past and stuff like that, okay? But I mean, they didn't know that there was anything else, so they just, did live there like that. They adapted to the situation. They couldn't move. They could only see these silhouettes from the fire, which they didn't even realize it was a fire. It was just these silhouettes, and they had instruments and things like that. And then somehow, I don't know if he was set free or he set himself free. Maybe God set him free. Maybe Jesus came. Anyway, one guy, he got away. Or maybe it was a lady. Maybe, let's say a lady, because they never say ladies. They had this one lady get away. And she said, because when the fire was coming on, she saw, wait, this can't, she just had a different mind. Anyway, she got the chains off. And she went up to the top. And she saw the light. It burnt her eyes. She didn't know what to do. And she went through all this trouble to get used to this new thing. But I believe she had to be coaxed in some kind of way. And she saw all the beauty in the world. And there was a point in time when she was enjoying herself and enjoying her knowledge and everything so much that she decided, why don't I have to go back and maybe help these people, you know. I know there's so much fun here and I'm having so much fun with you all, but let me go back. So when she went back, she found out that it was, she would have to get used to that life again. Oh, she didn't want to do it again. The fire made her sick. The silhouettes made her sick. Bad experience. And she had to try and get some of the people to see, but you know, the people wouldn't listen to her. There was no way that they would listen to her. Anyway, stop there. Okay, now, that's an allegory that was happening maybe 2,000 years ago. I don't know. No, it was longer than that. It was a long time ago. The allegory. It was in before, maybe 2,000 years before Christ. Not maybe 2,000, maybe, let me look it up. I don't think it was 2,000 years before Christ. Plato's, okay, I'm just going to look this up because, let me see. Okay, 1 second, just bear with me because I think this is important. Plato, I'm looking at Plato, and I'm putting Wikipedia, okay, so, philosophy, okay, philosopher, okay, so let me put my broken glasses on. So it was, BC, before Christ. It was like 300, 400 years before Christ. So that's that time era, okay? So I told you about that story. But now, what does it change as far as Jehovah's Witness? What does the, I'm looking at the time. What does the chains represent? And then I'm going to show you how people can use it against them. The chains will represent, now they studying what Plato, the story of Plato, it showed how humans are. So someone like a Jehovah, people watch our Bible Tract Society, say, oh, so even though they have their chains on, they don't even notice it. I mean, they're not complaining. So what kind of chain could we put on them? I mean, they can't move. They can only look straight forward at this wall. And they're not even complaining. And just think, what could we do with that? And then we have the chains that they put on. Although he was talking about chains. They figure out that they could put chains on people and they wouldn't even suffer, or they wouldn't even realize they were suffering or anything. So what kind of chains would they have? They could say chains, time restrictions. They could say inability to do certain things, never. Inabilities to think certain ways. All of that has to do with physical chains. Because like when you have physical chains on you, there's not too many things you can do. Okay, mental chains is probably the same thing. In a physical chain, you can want to do things, but you can't do them. In a mental chains, it's more stronger because you don't know the things you can do. So they're saying, and these people were, since they were children, they were living like this in the cave. So then we have these people who want to take advantage of people, and what they do is they go, wow, that really does work. So let's do that. And I talked to you about the things that they could do. And they also knew they also showed in the story that the person who left, oh yeah, let's start with this thing. They prescribed them what to look at. Like, for instance, in the fire, and it showed a shadow on the wall, and these people thought these things were real, and this is their entertainment and their life and everything. And the sounds that came from the people that would walk and show the silhouettes and stuff like that, that was their life. So that's prescribed, I could say, pretty much entertainment and interactions with the world. So, and they were satisfied with it. So they figured that they could come up with just the watchtower, just the awake. But it could be anything, okay? It doesn't have to be with Jehovah, but the Jehovah's Witnesses is a very good concept. So they see that these people don't even do anything. I mean, they have chains, but mental chains. With physical chains, you want to get out. But you get used to it, but, you know, you still have an idea of what can happen. But with the mental chain, you don't have those ideas of anything better. So it's a little bit more powerful. So they prescribe their entertainment, and I guess the Jehovah's Witnesses or the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society's form of those silhouettes would be the Watchtower and Awake in their publications. Mm-hmm. Now the person leaving are the ones who maybe get this fellowship, who finds out that, hey, you know, this thing is not right. You know, I don't agree with this. I'm not sitting here with these chains. Hey, the chains that don't even have a key. There's just nothing. We can just take the chain off of us. You know, so things like that. So they decided, and they're the ones that left, like the lady I was telling you about, and she went and she found out. It was kind of hard in the beginning, but when she got used to it, she got to see what really life was about. So we're ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, and we can actually see what the life coming out. But our problem is going back and explaining to these people, which, like the lady, the story I was telling you about, was totally close to impossible. So, not just that one, but there's a lot of them. The only thing I'm trying to say is, yes, we can always complain about all these things that happen, but there's things that we could understand that we don't want to understand. But people, if we don't want to understand, there's a lot of people, like philosophy, there's a lot of things that, because they're untalented and they can't do anything for themselves, they find those things like in philosophy, and they will control you from the things that you're afraid to listen to or you're too bored to listen to. So that's it. It took me a long time. I had to do it exactly that way because of the context of it. And I think that I'm going to continue to find certain things that I'm sure untalented people got to use in order to control and chain talented people like the ex-Jehovah's Witnesses. So thank you very much. I'm back in there. We're going back to another one. Look forward to the next YouTube video. Bye-bye. Ex-Jehovah's Witness. This one is going to be on the Jehovah's Witness, and I don't know how I'm going to put the Jehovah's Witness in the allegory of the cave. Thank you very much. Bye.